Well, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And it's a crucial matter we're about to discuss at this point in time. It has to do with curbing teenage pregnancy in our country. The latest results or reports showing us that some 110,000, almost 110,000 teenage pregnancies were recorded last year. Question is, how do we get past this? How do we protect our female children, especially as they are not supposed to be getting pregnant at this point in time? Well, joining us for the conversation, Otiko Afisa Jaba is a former gender minister and executive director, Henry Jaba Foundation. We also have Diana Adiko, a former technical director with the Gender Ministry, as well as Alhaj Awal Ahmed Karyama. He's the executive director for RISE Ghana. All of them join us on this all-important conversation. Let me say a very good morning to the guests from Madam Otiko Jaba, Diana Adiko, and Alhaj Ahmed. Diana, a very good morning to you, if you can hear me.
A very good morning to you, sir.
Great, great. Good to hear from you, Diana, and Awal as well. Awal, can you speak again so I ensure that...
Yes, so very good morning to you as well. I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Great, great. So I'll start with you, Diana. It appears over the years we've had to struggle with high levels of teenage pregnancy. But looking at the latest report, you would see that while it is a decline from the year before, that is 2019, it's about an 11.7% decline, it still makes for very worrying reading. Now, as someone who has been with the gender ministry, how much of a problem would you say this is, looking at the numbers we have when it comes to teenage pregnancy in Ghana?
Well, it's you've said it all. It's a huge problem. It's worrying, and it calls for attention. If our children from age 10 up to 19 are getting pregnant with these numbers, it has implication on their health. It has implication for education. Obviously, then it has consequence for national development and poverty alleviation and all of that. So it has a huge consequence, not only for the individual children and their families, but for the country at large. And it calls for, full attention for it to be addressed.
So you say it calls for full attention to be addressed, but let's just break down the numbers a bit. We are looking at some 18,000 of these girls, almost 18,000 coming from the Ashanti region. When you go to the eastern region, about 11,000, central region, 10,000, and then Greater Accra itself and the northern belt accounting for a little over 9,000 each. That is the situation there. And the question then is, looking at the numbers, do we have the right structures in place in terms of dealing with institutions where a lot of this, we've known for a long time that sometimes national service personnel, not all of them definitely, but sometimes they are involved, teachers are involved, when you go to our religious bodies, they are also involved. Have we had the right strategy to curb this situation? And if not, what do you feel we ought to be looking at specifically, Diana?
Let's start by what are the causes of the problem. If we understand what the causes of teenage pregnancy is or are, it will be probably easy to say what strategies are we using and are these strategies working. First and foremost, teenage pregnancy comes about through unprotected sex. And it can also be by teenagers who probably are exploring through adventure or anything like that. We also have a situation where girls are being defiled and raped, a conversation that we're still struggling with. If you see the statistics on defilement and rape in our country, it's not surprising that we have issues with a teenage pregnancy. And we also have a situation of child marriage where we have child rights. If a child is married at age 14 and gets pregnant, the statistics will show that we have a teenager who is pregnant. So if we are able to clearly, and are we having and understand how teenage pregnancy happens and what is informing the statistics, it probably would then be easier to kind of follow and say, is our strategy to respond to it working? If we take, for example, the issue about teenagers just being teenagers and young people and exploring with sex and in the process get pregnant, are we opening up the conversation about protected sex? Are we talking about, is there any form of sex education, especially in our homes and in the school? What is the nature of it? We know that for years, our conversation has been on abstinence. And there's an expectation and assumption that let every child abstain from sex. They are not supposed to be sexually active. But is that really the situation on the ground? Or are we having children, young people, teenagers being sexually active? And for which reason we need to have that realistic, open conversation, including probably making it possible for children to know about protected sex. If they cannot abstain, which is always the safest way of preventing pregnancies and sexually transmitted infection, and they are unable to abstain, then is it possible to have a conversation about protected sex? How is that conversation happening? We are all afraid to open up the conversation on sex, and that's one of our problems. Then talk about sexual abuse and sexual violence and rape and defilement, which is one of the huge drivers of teenage pregnancies. And so if children below 16 cannot consent to sex and people are having sex with them, especially older people, and we are seeing a culture where people are making excuse for older people who are having sex with children and saying that because the children are willing participants to the process, so it's okay. If we are not confronting that head on, and we are sitting and saying because the children are active, they are all grown, their bodies are well developed, we are going to have the issue of these horrifying statistics on our hands. And it also goes to talk about child marriage, which is one of the drivers of teenage pregnancy. When you're marrying children and you're marrying them off and they're going to get pregnant, you expect that to inform the statistics. Are we really, really confronting child marriage? Many people have assumed that child marriage is not being practiced, but each and every region in Ghana, including the urban region, which is Greater Accra, has high cases of child marriage. And so when children are getting married, what is the issue with it? Many may say policy, but already we have a policy in our country, a law that does not allow people below 16 years to be sexually active or be involved in sex. But even with that law, we're having 10-year-olds getting pregnant. So it goes beyond the formulation of law. It goes to implementation, but better still, it goes to a lot of education and a lot of protection of our young ones. So we have the strategy, some of it we need to review, but there's a lot of work.
Let me come to you now, Awal. And Diana has very beautifully laid bare the issues from child marriage to even incest and a lot of the things that happen. But these are just the numbers we happen to know. There are those we don't even know of. These are the numbers we know because these individuals went through certain health facilities where data was gathered. There are others that we might not even know of. In fact, what we don't know of could be even higher than what we are seeing now. And this also is a dip on the previous year, that is 2019's figures. So what do you feel we are not getting right? What are we missing that is getting us such high figures when it comes to teenage pregnancy?
Yeah, so first of all, let me say good morning to your wonderful viewers and listeners, and also to thank you for the opportunity to speak on this important matter. And Ramadan Kareem to all Muslims. And then I think that my dear sister has elaborated a lot of the factors that are responsible for this. There are just two factors that I want to add. One is transactional sex. We have been talking about sex for grades in the universities. Unfortunately, in the communities, we have the phenomenon of sex for food, sex for sanitary pads, sex for other basic needs of adolescent girls. Unfortunately, we have not brought the narrative to a national discourse for the policymakers to listen and take the necessary corrective action. I say sex for food because when you go to some of the communities, there is a hunger gap within a certain period where parents are not able to provide for the adolescent girls. And so they engage in transactional sex. Sex sometimes just to get food and eat along the day. It's heartbreaking, but that's a reality in some of the, and this is evidenced by the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey 2014, saying that the Upper East is one of the areas with the highest rates of transactional sex. So we need to put this in context and address these inequalities within our community. That's posing this. The other issue is around access to contraceptives. And we are talking about 5.5 million of adolescents in Ghana urgently needing contraceptives and not having access to it. This is the stark reality that we are facing. Another issue is the fact that some of our health facilities are not adolescent friendly. So when you are an adolescent and you want to go and access these services, you are criminalized, you don't feel comfortable. So a recent report commissioned by UNICEF, known as the U report, indicates that 43% of people cite, adolescents cite privacy and friendliness as the reason why they do not go, they will not to choose a particular health facility. Unfortunately, they are not choosing these health facilities. So we need to really look into the local context. What are the specific local contexts that are drivers? And then the other thing Dina mentioned is that we need to decriminalize the subject matter. We know that sex is a taboo topic. And so the adolescent people, they engage in it anyway. Young girls as age as 10 years, they are exploring, but they don't have a go-to area to get authentic information. So for me, I think we need to bring back the debate of age-appropriate, comprehensive sexuality education. If we do that, we're able to go to our imams, we're able to go to our pastors, we're able to go to our traditional authorities and open up and let them create an enabling environment where young people can passionately discuss this issue as long as it's age appropriate. People are concerned about the fact that it's against our culture, it's immoral, but young people keep getting pregnant. When are we going to stop? So we need to have a serious debate around age-appropriate comprehensive sexuality education within our communities and with the necessary stakeholders so that they can become champions and open up and be receptive to adolescents so that the adolescents can be able to voice and raise their concerns before them. They should be comfortable raising their sexuality issues, understanding their bodies before anybody. And if they are not able to do that in certain contexts, they would have access to the wrong information, and unfortunately, this situation will continue. And the other thing is also adjudication of cases. We are communities who protect each other, but we only fail to protect our children, especially minors. When minors are defiled, the whole community rallies and says, we are all one people. Let's not watch our dirty linen in public. Unfortunately, we're not putting the interests of the child. When you look at the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, it says that whatever, and even our Children's Act says that whatever we are doing involving children, the best interest of the child should be paramount. Unfortunately, when it comes to issues of defilement, the whole community rallies, you see influential people coming and say that, let's not make this public, let's resolve it. But this is purely criminal. You find chiefs and other opinion leaders adjudicating criminal cases like rape and defilement. We need to stop. It's unfortunate, and we need to put it at the centerpiece of our discussions so that these things will end. So the problems are quite...
So there are numerous issues to discuss, but I want us to pin down the aspect of the law and maybe what else we need to do, because back to some of what you made mention of, the law is in the thick of things here, but in this basket of issues that we have, there is the case of defilement, and if you're having intercourse with a child below 16 years, age 16 is the age of consent. If the person is below 16, you are looking at defilement there. There is also the issue of rape in here as well, which has a maximum penalty of 25 years, same for defilement. And then there is incest in there with a 3-year minimum and a 25-year maximum sentence. What are we not getting right when it comes to the law? Is it the enforcement, and what do we do in that regard?
I think that we're not getting a lot of the enforcement right. For instance, we are looking at the police coverage. The UN standard of police coverage is at least 1 police officer to 500 people. But when you go across Ghana, you realize that in some places the police coverage, police citizen coverage is up to 1,000. And we don't have, whole Upper East region, we have 4 stations that have those 2 officers. We are talking about 15 districts, but we only have the domestic violence victim support unit officers, the police officers with the exercise mandate to address this issue. We only have them in 4 districts, and this is across the country. Most of the places do not have this, and where they have those 2 officers, they are not adequately resourced to respond. So for instance, a girl is defiled and she stays about 300 kilometers or 200 kilometers away from the police office or the police station. She has to come and get a medical form to be able to assess herself. She goes to take the medical form and there are hidden charges. She's not able to afford this. And evidence is tampered with because with time it goes. So the police are not able to respond adequately. The systems are not there to be able to support the victim to be able to access this service timeously in terms of the medical report, in terms of the police form that they are. We have heard in some instances where they even charge for police forms and that the guys that copies are short, you need to. So some of these things are disincentive. So we need to look at police coverage. We need to look at resourcing the DOFSU. We need to look at giving them the autonomy to be able to operate in such a way that the influence that comes in terms of rubbishing these cases or taking them out of court to settle is addressed. As for the laws, have them, but the enforcement is the main problem.
Okay. Otiko Afisa-Jaba is the former gender minister and executive director of the Henry Jaba Foundation. She joins the conversation as well. Madam Otiko, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on, and a good morning to your viewers and yourselves.
Great. It's a pleasure having you, and it's been a while. I can't help it but start from this end, even before we get into the substantive matter. It's been years you've been out of the public eye. You've gone out of politics. What have you been up to?
I am the executive director and founder of the Henry Jaba Memorial Foundation that focuses on persons with disability and vulnerable women. So since I left politics, I have been very visible around the disability issues and also about gender. It's not only politics that you can do to serve your country. There are so many other issues.
There are so many other issues, and that is one of them that we're tackling this morning. Now, how did you receive the recent statistics in terms of teenage pregnancy? I'm sure during your time as gender minister, you had to battle same. What do you think has changed? Are we making any progress in this respect?
Well, from the statistics, it doesn't look like we're making much progress. I want you to picture a stadium. A stadium has a full capacity of about over 100,000 people. So the figures that we are seeing today of over 100,000 teenagers, a child is getting pregnant every, is it 1 hour or 13 minutes? Look at a stadium, Accra Sports Stadium, and see a full capacity. That is the type of thing we are looking at for our children who are getting pregnant. It is frightening. I have 2 daughters. And I wouldn't want them to be involved in teenage pregnancy because it destroys your life. It can kill you because the child's pelvic is not well developed to even have a child. 10-year-olds having children are at health risk. The fact that your destiny could be destroyed, they are sacked from home, they are sacked from school because they are pregnant. Fathers are impregnating daughters. House helps are being impregnated. Teachers are impregnating children. Pastors are impregnating children. It goes on and on and on. And it is not enough for us to say that it is a problem. We must find the solutions because these are the future leaders of our country, future mothers. And if we are not able to resolve it now and curb it, that means this huge number of girls are going to lose out, and Ghana will be the loser. And so, for me, I think that it is a collective responsibility where parents, number one, must educate their children on family values. We say poverty is the cause of teenage pregnancy, but I was faced with childhood poverty. But I did not go out there to get pregnant so that I'll be able to be a breadwinner. Yes, children should not be breadwinners. But if you teach them family values about integrity, about the importance of your life, no child should be going out there to go for 5 cedis. How much can 5 cedis buy to sleep with somebody?
Madam Otiko, are you laying...
They must not allow them. I beg your pardon?
Are you laying part of the blame at the doorstep of the children, or is it more of the parents that you're addressing in this?
I am addressing the parents.
Okay.
I am addressing society. I'm addressing the children themselves. I'm addressing the teachers. I'm addressing the mothers. I'm addressing the government and government agencies. We are all part of the problem. But I'm zeroing now on the parents, who must be the first call of teaching family values and letting children understand about their sexuality. You know, in our country, talking about sex and sexuality is a no-go area. It's a taboo. I never saw my father and mother even touching each other in a friendly way, let alone kissing. And so you don't talk about these things to our children. Like I said, no child has ever asked to be born. It is the parents' responsibility to educate the children about who they are as the girl child and the boy child, so that you understand about safe touching and unsafe touching. Some fathers conduct unsafe touching and end up sleeping with their children and getting them pregnant. If the child knows that this is unsafe, they will quickly tell their parents, their mother, that this is going on. It's very important that we put away these archaic ideas of not talking to our children about sexuality, because this is 2021 and childhood has changed. Television has invaded our space, radio, the internet. All these are causes of why we see our children getting involved. Sometimes the children themselves experiment. That's why I say the children too have an issue. I have an issue with them. What are you experimenting for? Childhood is only 18 years old. If you get involved in sex, especially unsafe sex, you can get pregnant and destroy your future. Where are the teachers? Why have they added sex education to social studies? We used to have sex education as a subject. Where are the churches, the mosques? Why is child marriage so prevalent in the Muslim community and in the rural areas? Where are the chiefs? Why do they take schnapps and water and a sheep or whatever when somebody defiles a child? Then the person who has done defilement is allowed to go. Where is the media? Where is the reporting? Anybody can get up and go on the internet, go on to these pornographic sites because they have a phone. Why are parents giving phones to their children? You can watch what you want on television. Mothers are so busy chasing their dreams. I was one of them, being at meetings and world events and what have you, and your home is on fire because you are no longer there because you are the 21st century mother. And you have moved, migration, because we are no longer with our grandparents and family members who would keep an eye on the child when we are at work. And where is the society? Because when somebody talks or hits your child or says something about your child, then you say, hey, it's my child. But our society used to think that the child belongs to the community. And so when you do something to protect somebody's child, you are protecting your own child.
Right.
But let somebody else talk about your child, and you see how that person will get up in arms against the community member who is trying to help. Our sense of community is lost now.
Okay.
And we must go back to the reality on the ground that the child belongs to the community. The child is the property of the government. And nobody should be having sex with a child.
Okay.
And no child should be having sex at all. Because a child is not by law supposed to have sex. And where are the police? The enforcement is a problem. And the other thing I want to say before we move on is the fact that there is a discrepancy, a gap between the law about the fact that when you are 18, you can get married. But when you are 16, you can have consensual sex.
Yes.
Who does that? That is a gap. And it allows these unscrupulous men and children who don't understand that childhood is the most precious part of life. And it's only 18 years old. When you mess it up, you get a messed adult. Thank you.
So that is a problem with the law. But you look at our laws as well on defilement, on incest, on rape, and the punitive measures involved up to a maximum of 25 years. And I guess most people would say that it is punitive enough. Are we grappling with a problem when it comes to the knowledge of the law? We heard the Somanya District Police Commander actually counseling teachers. It's in today's Daily Graphic that basically they should beware, because if you are caught in any of these acts and if you are convicted, you can't even come back to the profession again. Do you feel we've done enough to educate the population on the facts of the matter, that if you do X, Y, Z, this is what it means? Some people, honestly, are not conscious of some of these things. Have we done enough by way of education?
If we had done enough, we would not be having these figures. The figures speak for themselves.
What ought we to do then?
If a child is getting pregnant, then it means that we are not doing enough. In the rural areas, you don't have as much television and as much radio. Where is the NCCE, the information services? Are they going around to talk to parents in the rural areas? And that's where we are hardest hit. The highest figures are in rural Ghana, where there isn't enough information. But in terms of values, who does not know that it is wrong for a child to get pregnant? Tell me that. Who does not know that it is wrong for a father to sleep with their child or a brother to sleep with their sister? Those are things that we know. But the lack of enforcement and the fact that when a child gets pregnant, we feel ashamed and we hide it. We throw the child out as if it will solve the problem. We throw the child out of school. And then the child is the victim. The child has been defiled. Anybody under 18, according to the Children's Act, is a child. And you cannot say that they have consented because they don't understand what they are doing. If they are experimenting, they shouldn't be, because we are not telling them that it is wrong. And so we must understand that in as much as education is going on, it is still not reaching some of our people. And so the NCCE and the information services, the parents, the teachers, the media must drum it in and drum it in and drum it in until we curb this menace. It is unacceptable for anybody to go and impregnate a 10-year-old. I saw a 10-year-old in Manfidove, and I thought she had a tumor, but she was pregnant. I could not believe it, that a 10-year-old could be pregnant. And the figures were huge in that area of the Volta region. Why is this happening to our daughters? It is important that we as a society should ourselves embark on a campaign, a crusade. It's not only the media, it's not only the parents. This is larger than all of us and the government. We must all become crusaders and ambassadors and campaigners against teenage pregnancy. And let everybody in every village know that this is not on. And for as long as we continue to drum it in and enforce the laws, we don't enforce in this country. Ghana is one of the countries that has signed all the protocols and has so many laws. And yet, unfortunately, we are not able to enforce them. That is a sad situation. And the resources of the social welfare must also be boosted up. Go to social welfare offices. They are not resourced. Go to the DOFSO. You cry for them. These are the agencies that are supposed to help to enforce. And yet, they lack the infrastructure. They lack the resources. There is a lot to be done. It's not a one-day workshop. Where are the psychologists? We need to work together as a people, as a community of Ghanaians, and ensure that we get it right this year. Okay. No child can wait. It should not be too late for somebody's child.
Okay, we must get it right from this year, and that is quite an important call that you make there. But Diana, if you look at the numbers we are seeing, you can also tell that some of these, in fact, a lot of these cases may not have come to our attention because they were not recorded. They didn't go through health posts for the data to be put together. But there's an interesting twist to this discussion. Section 8 of the Domestic Violence Act 2007 provides that a victim of domestic violence, including sexual abuse, is, and I quote, is entitled to free medical treatment from the state. The reason I bring this up is that you go to as far back as 2017, Martin Kpebu, lawyer Kpebu, went to court to demand that the state be reminded that by law it should have in 2007 established a Victims of Domestic Violence Support Fund. In today's Daily Graphic, as currently as today, now that we're having this discussion, the International Federation of Women Lawyers is bringing up the same matter. I am tying the two together because even when it comes to reporting cases or getting the data, sometimes we don't get them because the reports are not there. The medical care is not accessible. What do you feel we can do about this situation, Diana?
I'm sorry, the internet, you got disconnected when we were talking about the section of the Domestic Violence Act that required something. I didn't
so I mainly made mention of Section 8, and it talks about those who are abused, who suffer domestic violence, including sexual abuse, having access to free medical care. Now, this is something that over the years, different people have fought for, including the likes of Martin Kpebu. But I was making mention of the fact that in today's Daily Graphic, we are back to square one because the International Federation of Women Lawyers is raising that same issue once more when it comes to rape, when it comes to access to medical health care. And I'm tying it to the fact that we may not even know the full data of those suffering from these incidents because of some of them not even going through our health posts. What do we do about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people are not going through the systems that would make it easy to capture them in the data. And it could not only be the fact that the medical care is not free, but it could also be that because of stigma and fear, they actually may not show up at any avenue to be supported so that they are captured in the statistics. So, I mean, that's a reality. I will come back also to the issue of medical care. I think there are two slightly different issues. One of it is the fact that when people suffer domestic violence and sexual abuse, when you go to the police station to make a report, the police requires that you fill up a medical form from a public health facility that is signed by a public medical professional, which is used as an evidence document to court. That medical form, before it's signed, the facility requires that people pay some fee. And that fee ranges between 300 Ghana cedis to about
a bit of connection issues with Diana's, feed there, but we're hoping she can quickly reconnect so she makes the point that she was trying to make initially. But it's a discussion we're having on curbing teenage pregnancy, and the statistics make for very, very unfortunate reading. As you can see on your screen, the Ashanti region with over 17,000 cases, the Eastern region 10,000, Central 10,000, Northern, and then you come down to the Greater Accra region. There is a serious problem we are facing in this country. What is the way forward? That's why we're having this discussion. Diana, is the connection better now? If not, I will move on to Awal. And Awal, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Now, looking at all the different dynamics that we are facing, you are in the rural areas, and it appears this is rife in such areas. The media, the police, the health facilities, what more do you feel we should be doing to help stem the tide of this? Chiefs as well. What do you see to be the way forward in that respect?
Yeah, so I think we need to involve more male in this discussion. And I want to put on context that those charges they charge at the hospitals for the medical reports are illegal. They're not supposed to charge victims any fee because per the law, they're not supposed to pay any money for such services. So when you know, they don't charge you. It's those who do not know. Unfortunately, there's a lot of ignorance about it. So we need to work with more male champions. We need to have men and boys fronting this debate, and naming and shaming is also critical. So, but first of all, let me thank Joy News for bringing this data and making it public. This data has been sitting in DIMS over the years. That's the Health Information Management System for ages, and we don't pay attention to it. So this shows the power of the media. It actually connects to the. So we need a strong advocacy in terms of increasing visibility of the issue at the community level by the media. We need to involve male champions. We need to work with the chiefs to understand their locus and where they stand in terms of these cases. Criminal cases shouldn't be adjudicated. And I think we need to also break down the data. We have lumped age 10 to 15, and then there is another age. So we need to break down those who are less than. We need to break it down to say age 10 to 15 so that we know that these are clearly children. The issue of consent will not come in. And then take corrective action. So for instance,
we actually have those between ages 10 to 14. There are about 3,000 of them. They've been singled out. So there are actually 3,000 or so, close to 3,000 of them aged between 10 and 14 years.
Yes, and exactly. So, but there's a one age group that is missing. That is 15. Age of consent is 16 years. So we are missing another bracket. The 15-year-old groups, they also have the right to be access to justice because they have been defiled. It's a clear case of defilement because they are underage. But that age group is not categorized under the children. That's the point I'm making. It's lumped up in the 16. So we need to take out that data and see. The other issue is around when you consider at the community level, we have LEAP. LEAP is the social protection program that they have. We are advocating that when you go to the communities, let's tie the ability and qualification of LEAP to the ability of the community, the household, to protect the girl child. So if you have so many teenage pregnancies, by the way, according to UNICEF, 1 in 10 women cite pregnancy for the reason for not going to school. So we are saying that if you go to the community or a village, if you are able to protect your girls and make sure that all adolescent girls complete at least senior high school without getting pregnant, then you are eligible for LEAP. Your LEAP amount could even be increased per the household that have vulnerable adolescent girls. We increase their LEAP so that the LEAP package that they are having, as it is, a single family takes 64 cedis. So can we say that a family that has adolescent girls, those are vulnerable to child marriage and teenage pregnancies, can we increase their LEAP? Can we also make it a qualification criteria so that if you have the ability to take care of girls, then this community. So you see that we have a watchdog in the form of LEAP beneficiaries policing each other and ensuring that the duty bearers are doing the right thing. Because the duty bearers know that with the LEAP, the burden of care even on them is less. So we need to incentivize the community by way of information, by way of necessary enabling policies, and we need to trigger some of these actions at the community level so that they can do it. So we need to break down the data, send it out, and regularly. And I commend Joy News seriously for doing this, and we must make it a continuous effort so that more people will get to know about the information and take the necessary corrective action against it. And we have a lot of NGOs working in this regard, but the challenge has been the lack of coordination in terms of everybody working in their silos. And then also GS need to open up for civil society to be able to work with them in the schools. As it is now, if you want to work with a local chapter of the Ghana Education Service, they tell you that you need approval from the headquarters. I'm a local NGO. We are based in a local community with a small budget that cannot take us to Accra to head office to seek things. But they require that you go to head office to seek approval to come and work in schools. But thankfully, this is beginning to change because they have now set up focal offices for NGOs. And we are hoping that we'll be able to work with this to normalize things. But we need to break this taboo thing.
Okay.
Let the thing be that.
Madam Otiko, now one thing that we realized in different countries, Kenya and others, they cited the fact that COVID-19 had led to some of these issues of teenage pregnancy because the girls were not in school. We're still in the throes of COVID-19 and our children have been back in school. What do you feel we ought to be doing on the educational front to prevent similar incidents? Do you even think that COVID-19 also amounted to part of what we are seeing?
Yes, thank you for that question. COVID-19 had a huge role to play on the increases in the numbers of girls who have been victims of teenage pregnancy. Remember that they were out of school for a whole year. The devil makes work for idle hands. For 1 year, when children are not in school, what are they supposed to be doing? Especially when they have busy parents. The parents have to go to work to feed them. And so they would get involved in experimentation, in the people who are raping young girls and what have you. So definitely COVID-19 had an impact, a negative impact, not only on the economy, but on the increases that we have seen in terms of teenage pregnancy. The fact is that beyond COVID-19 is parenting. And so we must get our parents seriously engaged in organizing their responsibilities better and in fulfilling those responsibilities. No child has ever asked to be born. It is your responsibility when you bring that child into this world to educate them about their sexuality, to keep them safe by teaching them about the things that will protect them. And so if you are a busy mother, you need to be able to sit with even your child from the minute they can talk and begin to educate them about their sexuality. You cannot say that the child is too young. Because even somebody said to me that even babies are being molested, and we know about that. And we also have to ensure that post-COVID-19, we support the social welfare to do their work. Right. The DOFSO, ensure that the police are enforcing the law and that the chiefs are not accepting the usual rams and schnapps and what have you. And that all of us, instead of blaming somebody, we blame all of us. Each one of us is the problem. Society should not continue to look on and say that it is somebody's child. We must understand that a child belongs to the community. And parents should not be saying that it is not your child, it's my child, so don't interfere. Because you can't cope on your own. That is why we are a community.
Okay.
So beyond COVID-19, all of us, the teachers, the pastors, the Islam community, the CSOs, the media, the children themselves, because some children defile other children. Some children get exposed to sex at an early age out of peer pressure or out of sheer curiosity. Some because of poverty, what have you. COVID-19 is not going anywhere. It's going to be with us like measles. It's going to be with us like tuberculosis. But you have to take a vaccination, wear your mask, and what have you. And so we must protect our children by teaching them family values. Okay. To understand that they are the most precious gift that God has given to us. And we have a responsibility as a community of Ghanaians to bring up and nurture these children to take their rightful place in our society, to contribute to the development of Mother Ghana better. Okay. And so the information services and the, what do you call them, the NCCE. Should all get their acts together. They've all gone to sleep. The teachers must bring out sex education, but teaching a child about their sexuality is not only for the teachers. That the first call is the parents. Okay, so point very well made there. I'll be picking brief concluding comments from all three of you. And Diana, it's unfortunate that the connection has not been that good. But Otiko, I'll start with you since you're already speaking. I'll pick your final comments, and I want you to skew it toward some advice. Counsel for the current gender minister, the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. What sort of advice would you give her, as someone who has occupied this portfolio, what advice would you give her to help stem the tide of teenage pregnancy? I don't think that is fair for you to ask me to be advising the current Well, you have experience and minister. You could bring it to bear. That is all that I'm asking. My advice is going to the whole of society. One, government must increase the budget of the Ministry of Gender, and the government must also ensure that the social welfare are well resourced, the DOFSO are well resourced, the infrastructure, the tools that they need, that there are psychologists, psychiatrists to help all these people, that the law must be enforced, and that there is social interventions like the LEAP must also be spread to families that really need it because of the issues of poverty. The fact that we have skills training must also be given to whoever has already been affected, like the Kayaye. Young girls should not be thrown out of the house. You rather increase the dangers and the risks. We must ensure that we enforce the law. When somebody has gone to have sex with another, even if it is a child, when it is a child, we understand it's not a criminal offense. But is murder not an offense? When a child kills another child, is it not a criminal offense? So when a child has sex with another child, it should be a criminal offense. And we must ensure that we enforce the law, not because somebody is a rich man, somebody is somebody's father, somebody is a pastor's son, and so when they go and make somebody's child pregnant, they should let them go. The other thing I want to draw attention to is honor. A lot of families look at family honor, and because of the family honor, you reject your child. Because of the family honor, you protect the perpetrator. That is unforgivable. It is the girl child who is the victim. She should not be thrown out of the house. We should protect her at all costs. And please, accidents happen. When she is raped, when something bad happens and she gets pregnant, she needs love. And we need to embrace her, not reject her. Okay. We can take the children or the child and help her to go back to school, because education will take her out of this intergenerational problem and make sure that the poverty cycle in the family will be broken, because this little child who has gotten herself pregnant or has been raped or for whatever reason has become pregnant is able to go to school beyond that. Getting pregnant is not the end of the world. It doesn't mean that go get pregnant. Girls, shut your legs. Shut your legs and get educated and be somebody, because Ghana and yourself knows that you are precious.
Potent advice there.
You have denied yourself the right. And those are scrupulous men. I will not say anybody should castrate them, but they should zip their pants. Thank you very much.
The men should zip their pants. Interesting way to conclude. Diana, what would be your concluding remarks? Hello, Diana.
Apologies for the terrible internet connectivity at my end. I would say that by the statistics, year after year, there's no doubt that teenage pregnancy is a huge issue. It's an issue that cannot be ignored. And I would say to a large extent, as a society, we've played the moralist card in such a way that has been disadvantageous to us. We've played our cards about sex education in such a way that has increased the risk for our young girls and put our future at risk. If girls are being impregnated, repeated with such high numbers, we have seen the consequence on their education, their health, and the cycle of poverty that will follow them and their children puts the country at a higher risk. Who takes care of the children that these children bring into the world? And how are they also protected to break the cycle of sexual abuse? I think we should open the conversation not only about sex education, but the issue about sexual abuse in our country. It's a big one. We've taken it so lightly and allowed the justice system probably around defilement and sexual abuse should be a bit more responsive than it is now. You mentioned the issue of our medical care and support. One of the journeys towards justice is actually getting a medical report from the doctor to the police that will go to the court. If getting that is a problem, how then will you get justice for victims and use that as a way to prevent continuous abuse? So it's all around us, and we need to have a concerted, much more integrated way to respond to these cases. Beyond that, the girls, the statistics we have before all of us, they're actually names and they're actually lives of our children. What happens to them, for example, re-entry into school? How does our policy admit them back? Are we seeing the end to their education and a brighter future? Are we seeing them stigmatized and left to their fate? Or we're having an education system that is receptive to the fact that such things are occurring and we'll be able to get them back into school and get them back on track?
Right.
Are we addressing the issues of child marriage and etc.? So we need to have this conversation repeatedly. And I had a while congratulating you for picking it up and giving it enough time, like today, to talk about it. And I believe that after here, the conversation is not going to die off. And we should continue to make it a priority. It's a huge, to have 100,000 girls pregnant. I mean, if that doesn't scare all of us, then I don't think anything else will.
Okay.
And we need to really, really step up our game and do some more work about it, but open the conversation on sex education, open the issues around sexual abuse, name it as it is, name and shame abusers, prosecute them, get them off our streets so that our children will be protected. We have no other option than to protect our future.
Diana, Thank you so much. And the conversation continues. We shall play our part. But a big thank you to Otukwa Afisa Jaba, former gender minister, and also Executive Director, Henry Jaba Foundation. Diana Adiko, you just heard her, former Technical Director, Gender Ministry. And we also were joined by Alhaj Awal Ahmed Karyama, Executive Director for Rise Ghana.